Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome once again to the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. And look, it's WrestleMania weekend. Let's do this thing. Night 2 predictions. Myself, Josh Isenberg, Justin LaBar. We really dove deep into the Juice Box for Night 1 and Night 2. Hopefully everybody enjoyed Night 1 and the predictions that we gave. Some insight that we had. Pretty intense booking discussions. Just discussions on the product and how at this point, at this moment, pro wrestling is really at such a high level across the board, and it's really great to see every week live, being there at these shows, AEW, WWE, it really doesn't matter, in person, on TV, PLEs, pay-per-views, just the landscape of the whole business right now is really strong, and WrestleMania 40, new regime, this is arguably just a huge chance. LaBar does mention it later on. WrestleMania 17, arguably the greatest WrestleMania of all time, happened and was in such a perfect time. The perfect storm I mentioned, where WCW closed. The storylines were at such a perfect level and fever pitch with like Vince versus Shane and Austin Rock 2, TLC 2. There's just so many pieces to that puzzle that made it perfect. And WrestleMania 40, TKO now, and Roman potentially losing to Cody after all this time, and The Rock being involved, and just it really coming together as another potential perfect storm. And I'm also including Jade Cargill on that front. So just a lot going on, a lot of great stuff across the board in pro wrestling. And you got the Chair Shot Reality 3 different co-hosts in to discuss it all right here on the Juice Box. Love to get those guys' insight, and I was very happy to have them on here. Unfortunately, Justin will not be in Philly, but I will be seeing Josh Isenberg throughout the weekend. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode and enjoy the weekend ahead. WrestleMania is the best time of year, most exciting time of year for fans. I'm happy to be there for this one. Last time I went was in New York, Mania 35, so it'll be nice to get back there. And let's just see what WrestleMania 40 has. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. So here's myself, Josh Isenberg, Justin LaBar, the WrestleMania 40 Night 2 predictions right here on the Juice Box. And welcome once again. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the Night 1 of WrestleMania 40 predictions here in the Juice Box with Josh Isenberg, myself, and Justin LaBar. And, of course, for Night 2, we brought the crew back together again. Night 2, WrestleMania 40, 6 matches on the docket here. We're going to end, of course, with the potential most overbooked match in the history of professional wrestling. But before that, we've got a little bit of an undercard. Let's start it off right away. 6-man, and they've added this to add some cachet, Philadelphia Street Fight, The Pride, Bobby Lashley, and the Street Profits versus the Final Testament, Karrion Kross, and the Authors of Pain. Paul Ellering's going to be there. Scarlett's going to be there. B-Fab will be there. This is just reminding me of the WrestleMania 13 Chicago Street Fight with LOD. Was Paul Ellering? No, I don't think he was there for that. But LOD and the Nation, where, kind of just 6 guys thrown in, and they had a big brawl, and it was fun. I don't see much out of the chaos, but go ahead, LaBar.
No, it wasn't LOD and Ahmed Johnson?
Oh, yeah, LOD and Ahmed. Yeah. Versus Nation, which Ahmed had the shoulder pads, which I thought was a nice touch, as we talked about gear on Night 1 with Seth. LaBar, outside of this just being fun, I mean, it's Philly. You're going to have ECW chants all weekend with Paul Heyman going in and what have you. And I'm sure some legends might show up as well. Is this anything other than just a chaotic street fight with some fun spots?
No, I'm not going to spend much time on it because it really doesn't need it. I'm a huge fan of Kross and Scarlett. They haven't yet refound the magic of them like they had at NXT under the Triple H NXT, but I have to believe the Final Testament gets the win here. I cannot. They've just worked to put this group together with Ellering and AOP, so I can't imagine there being any other result out of this that makes any damn sense.
Josh, I'll pass the buck to you.
Yeah, I think Final Testament needs to pick up this victory here. Bobby Lashley has had his moments at WrestleMania. The Street Profits, I mean, they're a fun stable, but they've kind of been thrown together because they had nothing else really for any of them. I love Cross. LaBar and I have talked about this I feel like ad nauseum, that we're big proponents of who he is, his creativity, his aura on television. I think he's really at the point where they need to do something more with him. And I think this is just an opportunity for him to get to WrestleMania, have a 10 to 12 minute street fight, some chairs, some tables, whatever you need. I think the Final Testament picks up the victory here. And again, it needs to be a fun 10 to 12 minute match that we kind of saw. I think it was the second match last year with the tag team showcase or whatever it was that people talked about, even though it was kind of, just thrown together, but it was still fun. And I think that's what this match is going to provide.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think the match will be fun. Like, look, we can say it's, maybe not as worth talking to at length, but I agree with you, LaBar. Cross and Scarlett, I would hope that, maybe some momentum will be built here. I know that they just put this group together, and I think, over the last, 3 or 4 years, we have seen an influx of factions and successful factions, Judgment Day and the Bloodline and, the LWO. And there's a lot of equity there where, you get a lot of guys, you get a tag team that goes for the tag titles maybe, and you get some 6-man interactions like this. So I hope that with a win, because I'm going to pick the Final Testament as well, I'm hoping that Karrion Kross, even though he's a part of this group, can have something, further on to go do, especially with Scarlett. I think they're a great pair. I agree. I don't know if they've really captured what they had in NXT. And if we're correct about the titles splitting between Raw and SmackDown, why not Authors of Pain have a shot and have a run with those titles,
Well, and that's what I was going to say. The most interesting thing probably out of this match is what could be set up for both sides. And yeah, you have two tag teams in the AOP on the one side, if the Profits on the other side. So yeah, if they're going to bring separate tag titles back to each division, then they're key components to the depth. And back to, I'm going to kind of discard Lashley because as reliable as he's been, I feel like his time has come and gone. I feel like his best days are probably behind him in WWE. But Cross, you're still hoping the best is yet to come. And as we debated ad nauseum for night one about the IC title, and we'll touch on the US title here in a moment, if you wanted to have Cross be a guy who was in either one of those title pictures and was on either show, him picking up a win here in Mania is very important.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, I really hope this is the last time I mention this, but is Montez Ford ever gonna not be a part of the Street Profits? Is he ever gonna get a singles run? Especially now we got this Hulu show. He seems like he's primed and poised to be a singles star. But it seems like the Street Profits, like, that's just what they want to roll with. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think maybe he has a future as a single, but it's just not going to happen, or it's not in the cards? Or
yeah, I think he does, but I think it's the right time for them to pull the trigger on Montez. And I think the Street Profits, they were tag team champions in an interesting period, right, in WWE before the pandemic, kind of right after the pandemic. They never really became the tag team in WWE. They were kind of, coming up short a lot of the times, and they were also, part of the Bloodline story where they lost at SummerSlam to Jimmy and Jey Uso a couple of years ago. So they had that opportunity, and they were spotlighted, very popular. They were spotlighted and very popular. But at the same time, I think Montez is just still 6-8 months away from breaking away. The time will come for Montez, but I think they don't need to rush Montez because there's so much top tier talent that's above him right now.
Yeah, I would agree with all that.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think that it's gonna happen, but yeah, there's really no need to rush. I mean, we say it as if he's only been around for 12 years, 15 years. I mean, it really hasn't been that long. So I think the more you wait, I'm sure there'll be a spot open to where he can step up and see what happens with that going forward. There will be a singles match, though, between two guys who, I thought LA Knight was going to have a huge match with Logan Paul. We'll talk about Logan Paul later. AJ Styles has had quite the WrestleMania career since coming into WWE back in 2016. And we get these guys in a singles match with nothing on the line. Seems like a lot of animosity and personal hatred between the two. Outside of LA Knight getting a raucous welcome and the obvious yes all throughout Philadelphia, I don't see much else in this match other than an LA Knight win. LaBar, is there anything to this match other than just a one-on-one match between, solid in-ring competitors?
No, I mean, I think this would be LA Knight's first Mania singles match, if I'm right. So, I mean, yeah, it's that entrance, it's that reaction. It'll be a nice match, whatever time they get between the two of them. But yeah, I mean, again, kind of like what I said a minute ago about Cross, depending on what the plan is, as this is the changeover, right, in the WWE calendar. This is where their new year ends and starts is Mania to then the Raw and SmackDown. So depending on what they have lined up, that'll make this match important. But yeah, I would be shocked if they had LA Knight lose this singles match.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think when you look at LA Knight, he needs the victory. I expected him to be competing for the U.S. Championship, but I like the fact that they pivoted a little bit from what we thought and have him, face AJ in a one-on-one match, which, I mean, guys, you look at AJ's career in WWE, 8 years, 9 years, he's faced Jericho, he's faced Shane, he's faced Nakamura as the champion, he's faced The Undertaker, he's faced Randy Orton. I mean, those are big names that WWE has given to AJ Styles on their biggest show of the year. So WWE has done AJ right in so many ways. And I think giving LA Knight AJ Styles says, we know that you can put on a good match. AJ has proven that. Now you prove this to us. And I think LA Knight picks up a big victory here. There's so much potential still with LA Knight. Will he be world champion? I don't think so. I don't know. But again, AJ hasn't been world champion for a while, and he's done just fine. He's remained relevant. AJ Styles is the prime definition of a workhorse, and he makes anything that is associated with him in WWE now, especially being the veteran, being there for 8 years, important. So I'm going to go with LA Knight here. I think the crowd is still behind him. I mean, I still pop for LA Knight. I think he has such a cross appeal with the general public, and everything like that. I think he's still relevant. And just because he's not going to fight for a U.S. championship, some could say that this is just even a bigger match when he's facing a guy like AJ Styles in the career that AJ has had in WWE.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, like the AJ resume at WrestleMania, even though only 8 years in the company, has been pretty stellar. So I mean, like you mentioned, Josh, LA Knight, hey, this is your moment. Have your big moment. You defeat AJ Styles. Let's see what you've got. And I don't think it's out of the cards that LA Knight could be a future world champion. We'll talk about the U.S. title here in a moment, and I think that LA Knight could absolutely be involved in that title picture, especially if he does get a victory against AJ Styles.
Obviously, everybody was a victim of 2020, the pandemic.
Yeah.
But looking back now that we're 4 years removed, I really feel for AJ Styles, the fact that he could not have his Mania match against The Undertaker, handpicked by The Undertaker, in front of a stadium crowd, because he's never going to get a match of that magnitude again. There's only one of a kind like the name. I really feel bad that AJ came to WWE, an underdog even then in WWE. For all intents and purposes, made Vince a believer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got over to the WWE crowd and could have been part of an illustrious list working Taker in again handpicked by Taker in a stadium match and did not get to have it. I feel bad for him that he never got that.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm glad that he did get to do what he did with him. I think it was still a fun cinematic match, what have you. They still salvaged it, but
they made the most of it. Yeah.
Right, but I couldn't agree with you more. To the fact that it was, handpicked, who knows? I mean, and Undertaker hadn't had too many great matches at the tail end there, but of all people to get a good match out of him then, I think AJ Styles would have absolutely been the guy. So, Damn, missed opportunity. Let's dive into that next match, though. I said Logan Paul potentially could have gone against LA Knight. That's at least what I have been thinking about the last couple of months. I think both you guys felt similarly. But in addition, I thought maybe Logan Paul, if that wasn't going to happen, he had so many different people going, to challenge. Who wanted the U.S. title. Maybe you're going to get a ladder match. That's not to be. The ladder match is on night one for the tag titles, and we get this interesting triple threat: Logan Paul versus Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. U.S. title on the line, triple threat. So first pinfall wins, anything goes, which I think benefits Logan Paul if he's going to win. However, I'm not sure that's the case. LaBar, I'm going to pass it to you to give your prediction here. I really like this. You get a legend in Randy Orton, who's done it forever. Kevin Owens, who has been in the business for a long time, but in regards to WWE, he's only been around for, 7-8 years. And Logan Paul, who's the champion in this match, has only been around for, 2 years and has made such a huge impact, so much so that Prime is going to be in the ring on the mat for this weekend, which is unprecedented.
In terms of trying to pick a winner, this might be one of the toughest matches of the entire show because I just don't know where they want to go. The rest of them, as we talked about, we kind of feel like we know, we have a strong enough feeling to speak, But this one, Owens is Mr. Reliable, so I could see that. Orton is Randy Orton, and I love when they try to put some veteran credibility, to these mid-card titles. So I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I'll say this with Logan Paul. Obviously, Logan Paul has proven that he belongs. He can hang. He's earned the respect of his colleagues there. And really, other than winning the United States title when he did, he's come into a lot of these big shows. He's performed great. Like he's delivered to the quality, but he doesn't have a great win-loss record. So as long as the schedule permits, I don't know what he has lined up in the next few months, but as long as the schedule permits that he can at least make, some of the next few PLEs, I would have him come in against Orton and Owens and walk out of Mania still champion. I think that would be such a great bit of bragging rights for him. It would help him a little bit in the win-loss column. And I think Logan Paul, as the heel that he can be as a U.S. champion, there's several interesting baby faces that you can then line up, whether it's guys currently on the show like LA Knight, or Bobby Lashley, or Braun Breakers coming in, or if you start talking about returns like Sheamus or whatever. But I think Logan Paul's champion is very interesting, and I would like to see him walk into Mania, walk out retaining,
especially against two guys of that caliber. Yeah, I think you make a great point. You kind of turned me there, especially since they've been building this up as Orton and KO have just, beat the hell out of Logan Paul and anybody else that was, around him, KSI included. I'm sure he'll get another spot where he gets destroyed at WrestleMania. Josh, do you foresee Logan Paul walking in and walking out as U.S. champion? Because I kind of agree with that.
Walking in, yes. Walking out, no. I think Logan Paul loses this championship. And when I think about the U.S. title, there's been so few and far between matches that have been interesting. And, real quick, LaBar, can you remember Randy Orton as U.S. champion at WrestleMania 34 and who he defended that against?
34? No.
In New Orleans. We were there.
I was there. I don't remember.
It was Bobby Roode, Rusev, and the winner, Jinder Mahal.
Was it really?
Yes,
Wow.
It was, right?
Talk about things you forget.
So, yeah, I remember that because I was watching WrestleMania 34 last week, and I'm like, yep, did not remember this one. So it's probably our beer/bathroom break.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, and that was the Mania in New Orleans where they were running out of stuff at the concession stand. That was probably...
it was awful. Yeah, it was terrible. But I say that because Randy Orton never needs the U.S. championship. So I eliminate Randy Orton, but I think I eliminate Randy Orton because I think he's next up for a potential Universal Championship feud. because Randy's Randy. Logan Paul could also be in that, I guess, situation or conversation of the next guy who could potentially go to Saudi, have a world championship match like he did against Roman Reigns last year. I think Kevin Owens wins this. And I think Kevin Owens wins it as everything that you said, LaBar, about he's always there. He's put on good matches. He's always been, reliable. And Kevin Owens is a U.S. champion. He can face anybody and people will be interested in. Not to say that anybody who Randy or Logan faces as U.S. champion wouldn't be interesting, but there comes a point where Kevin Owens, he's done so much, right? Like he main evented against Stone Cold Steve Austin after Austin almost took 20 years of not being in a ring. He won the undisputed tag team championships last year in the main event of night one. I think Kevin Owens has more to give the U.S. championship than the other two guys do because of the star power that the other guys possess. So that's why I would go with Kevin Owens winning the U.S. championship at WrestleMania.
So Logan Paul's going to get pinned on top of the logo of his own drink?
Oh my goodness. What a move right there.
That's the genius of it.
That's the genius. A delicate genius he is.
So I think I'm kind of in agreement with both of you, if that's possible. I think Logan Paul.
We picked different people, Juice.
Make a decision.
Okay, but I didn't say that I predicted the same that you guys. I just said I agree with what you guys have both said. I think that Logan Paul will win this match, but my question is, if he loses this match, didn't he just re-sign with WWE longer term?
He did. An unbiased host, LaBar. What is this, CSR?
That was such a ghoulish response. I'm going to agree with both of you when we said two different people.
I can agree with both points and like that's very.
Can you though? Like, can you?
Yes,
they're two different points.
Yeah,
but they're two different points.
That's why I can agree with them. They're not combative points. I didn't say I'm going to pick Kevin Owens and Logan Paul to win.
You're picking Randy Orton then?
You're dribbling your juice a little bit wide here.
No. All I'm saying is I think Logan Paul will win, but I'm saying if he were to lose, I think it would be Kevin Owens. But my follow-up question is, if Logan Paul is re-signed and he's not a champion, do you think he's just going to be on TV every week? Like it's tough for me to see that as not a champion, because as champion you're parading around, you're getting publicity, what have you. But just a week to week Logan Paul.
All right, Juice. If I'm betting you a hot dog and a shot of Bombay Sapphire, who do you pick?
I will. Come on, Josh. I will pick Logan Paul.
All right, fair enough. You're really dribbling a little bit now, Juice. Is this a juice box or a Capri Sun? I mean, what's going on here? Like, come on.
Is it? That's another question. Is a Capri Sun a juice box?
It's a pouch, not a box.
Juice. Can you imagine in an alternate universe the juice pouch?
It's semantics.
Exactly.
It's semantics. It's a juice box. It's
not even
Justin.
Juice. It's like 10% juice. Read the ingredients. Come on.
I buy the less sugar free for my kids.
What a parent. Sugar free. Good for you.
LaBar, what's your favorite juice box all time?
Mott's apple juice.
No, it probably is Capri Sun. Full on sugar. When there was nothing like getting at a Little League practice and getting a nice cold Capri Sun.
No Minute Maid or High C Mott's.
High C was okay, but Capri Sun.
Okay. Well, you're a little older. I don't know if they had Capri Sun back then.
And there was great commercial. I might be too old for you to know this commercial.
He's only a year older than me, Juice.
There was a great commercial.
I know looks tell differently, but
There was a great '90s commercial, the Capri Sun, of the guy would grab it. He'd be like playing basketball or something. Like he turned like all like silver. Like he turned like the complexity of the pouch. And it was a great commercial. Yeah.
He like flowed through like he was he was. Yeah.
It's the Capri Sun.
You could always blow it up and then pop it.
Horrible take.
Well, I didn't
did that in the cafeteria. Got kicked out.
He tried to plug in the straw in the Capri Sun pouch, and then everything dribbles out. Like, come on.
Well, that happens. How bad are your motor skills if you can't put the damn straw in the Capri Sun, Josh?
Not good, Justin. My motor skills are not good. We know
this. Listen, while you're struggling in the West Day cafeteria, we hear, I don't know what you're struggling with here, but it's the Capri Sun. All right.
Wow. Well, I'm glad I'm back to hosting this show.
Who would have thought the biggest heat and the biggest conversation would be about Capri Sun? over
I know.
WrestleMania predictions.
Of all the things,
If
the
we
topic
spend
is
more
like-
time on the Bailey Io Sky match than we did Capri Sun, I'm gonna be pissed.
I agree.
let's get into it. Bailey, Io Sky, singles match, women's
Bailey.
title.
Bailey.
Exactly. I don't see any other way for this, especially with night one. If we're in agreement that Damage Control is going to lose, I think Bailey's going to win this title. I don't know if we're going to see the wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men back back to Bailey being a hugger, but I think it's going to be a nice moment. Bailey gets the title, and hopefully we can see some fresh new matches going forward with Bailey as champion. Josh, are you in agreement?
Nope. Io is going to win. There's too many women faces on the SmackDown roster for her not to be champion.
Then how does she? Then what? How does she win? She doesn't win clean.
Of course not. She's a heel, Justin.
I'm aware, Joshua. How does she win? How does she win?
That was
naturally. So how does she win?
Naturally, I think somebody cost Bailey the victory. I mean, obviously, it's going to be somebody from Damage Control. If they lose night one, I don't see them not interfering night two. They have to make sure that
Io, it's going to all fall apart.
They could cost Io, but I don't know. I'm just trying to be different here because we're agreeing on everything, and
I agree with both of you guys apparently. So
here
what
we
the hell's
go.
the difference?
Yeah.
Well, we just surpassed the Capri Sun time limit.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go Io just because I think realistically I think Bailey will win, but if Io wins, I think it makes you feel more for Bailey still, and I think the Bailey Io storyline, although it's good, it's a year and a half in the making with Damage Control since they debuted at SummerSlam.
Right.
I still think there's more for the fans to want to care about Bailey winning that championship. That's all.
I agree. I just think Bailey having a match with Bianca or Jade or Naomi, like there's a lot more fresh matches that I would love to see with Bailey as champion than Io. And I think, I don't know what the future would hold for Io and Damage Control if they all just end up losing, but that's for them to figure out,
And aside from the names you just said, Juice, I mean, NXT is rich. They are silly rich in female talent right now.
And great point. It's not at this point. It is not a demotion anymore to go to NXT. Ask Baron Corbin.
No.
So I any of these people we've talked about on either night here, it's not out of the realm of, hey, they're not doing great, or like we talk about the Pride. Could you see like a Bobby Lashley? Maybe things don't work out. He goes to NXT, does something with Braun Breaker if he wanted to go back down. Like, there's just different things I think you can play with now that it doesn't seem like NXT is less than the main roster.
Yes, I agree with that now, and then especially when I don't know when the exact month is. I think maybe October, but when they move to CW, they're going to want to have a lot of firepower just to make a great first impression. So absolutely.
Especially after the NXT that they went against AEW. Josh and I watched that together, and it was just like, well, Cena's here, Cody's here, Undertaker's here, like the whole Mount
They
Rushmore
brought everything.
People.
That Taker chokeslam Braun Breaker that night, I think, right? Yeah.
They were just showing off on what they have.
Yeah.
But yeah, you make a great point with the CW. Like they're gonna, like, the goal is, hey, these are new people, but you're going to want to have some sustained names that people know, and I'm sure they'll have, such and such visit and what have you.
Like again, if like an AJ Styles, if you don't have anything else for him on Raw SmackDown, like, why not AJ Styles down there?
And I think that's a decent. Josh, was it you that disagreed or asked me why I thought AJ should end? Well, I said AJ Styles should end his career in AEW. I think that would be the best move, but going to NXT, regardless if he would end up going to AEW or not, AJ Styles at NXT really is like appealing to me now that I'm thinking about types of matches he could have down there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think the AEW thing, just anytime somebody thinks, not you, but just in general. I just
mean that to end his career, not like right now, but just at the end of it.
I think he's good how he is now, though. Like, from my perspective, I talked about his resume at WrestleMania. And not to go completely off the side rails here, but like his career in WWE, he's been treated so well and so good. But I mean, then you think about his career at WrestleMania, and then you stack it up against a guy like CM Punk, won Money in the Bank, faced Rey Mysterio, faced Randy Orton, faced Chris Jericho, faced The Undertaker. So you never know what people want to do. I mean, hell, I was surprised when Edge went to AEW, but
Right.
it's their, I guess, what they want, I guess, is different than what the fan thinks they should go out with.
Well,
My point was just, sorry, LaBar, but it was just
No.
that AJ Styles has done, like you said, Josh, pretty much everything. And I'm not saying that, oh, well, I've done everything, I want to just go to AEW now. I just think it's like maybe he's peaked. To me, and LaBar, you mentioned this with him missing out on that Taker match. I'm not sure we're ever going to see AJ Styles win another world title or even have another world title match outside of that Fatal 4-Way at Rumble again. So to me, I'm like, okay, do what you got to do, go somewhere else.
He'd be a great heel or a great opponent for Cody if Cody wins the Undisputed Championship.
That is something. Go ahead, LaBar.
Yeah, no, he would. Heel AJ would. No, I was just going to say real quick, since we just kind of veered off of that lane because I don't actually get to talk about this that much. But yeah, to the point of like a stylist in AEW to finish his career, if you look at like, obviously like, Jericho was a different situation. Jericho obviously was put in. He said he's made it's the most lucrative contract in his entire career, so he was a foundation point there. Obviously the Mark Henrys, the big shows, they've just gone there to be ambassadors and coaches and what have you, and get paid and compensated because WWE didn't have anything more for them. But then for the active guys like the Christians, for the Copelands, Christian obviously never got his full potential, maybe opportunity given in WWE. So surely when WWE's like, all right, yeah, you're at this age, we have no more need for you, he still feels like he can go. He's in great shape. Yeah, he makes sense if AEW is going to give him, a good contract. Copeland, especially because he retired, thought his career was over, comes back, does has some good moments, comes back, has Rumble moments, has Mania moments, thinks he's done, and WWE's like, all right, we don't have anything more we can do with you, but he obviously still feels like, all right, I am on my second lease on my career. Yeah. I want to do more, and if you can get the payday that I imagine he's getting from AEW, you do it. But like with Styles, what I'm getting at here is I can't imagine AJ finishing up in WWE whenever that is, and like unless he sees somebody in AEW where he's like, I have got to do business with that guy, I have got to. And even then, AEW handles business differently. I can't. I could see him more off just signing the Legends deal for WWE.
Yeah.
Raking in that nice royalty check, or again, he's a guy from the South making a trip to Florida X amount of times a month and helping train. Like I just for the PC, I just don't see him going and doing the AEW run.
You make a good point. It's just right. The only thing I slightly disagree with is right when you said, unless there's someone over there that he wants to work with, you don't think AJ Styles would want to work with Danielson again, or Ospreay, or Kenny when he comes back, or like there's a lot of talent that he's never really worked with.
But here's the thing, Juice, to that point. First of all, I mean AJ is 46,
and it's more his style,
AJ's 40. He's 46, but he's in phenomenal shape, pun intended.
Wow, look at us.
So I could see him going for. He could go. I mean, if Jericho could go into his 50s,
oh my God,
AJ Styles can absolutely go into his 50s. So you talk about Ospreay's. Danielson's probably done. He will end with AEW in ring, but you talk about Ospreay or Okada or Swerve
or Kenny Omega when he comes back.
Or Omega if he comes back. These are all guys too who they will have the next 2 or 3 years in AEW, but if they're still healthy at the end of that run, they're all guys that at that point WWE could then say, hey, look at this bag of money over here. We have this thing called WrestleMania, and we have a guys like AJ. So like they're all guys that could still be signed before their retirement. To WWE. Yeah, so it's
definitely.
It's almost like all those guys are in the same pool of like, maybe not the same age, but it's like whenever your contract's up. That's what's so great about having the two companies. It's like, well, there is this other side of people I haven't worked with. It's all about who's willing to pay and what type of, like you said, we have WrestleMania and it's 2 nights. Like you're not going to get forgotten and buried on one long night.
My last comment on this, and we'll get back on track. My last comment on this, I don't know if this applies to Okada because I don't know about him and growing up in Japan and the Japanese culture. I'm not going to pretend to speak to this, but I've said this before. The thing that WWE, especially now that Vince is gone and they seem to be back on the upswing creatively and they seem to be on the upswing business wise, and it's cool again to be a WWE fan. The thing that WWE has in their favor that AEW cannot compete with is if you're a talent and you think back to the days of when you were breaking in the business. and you were driving everywhere for $20 of a payday, or losing money, or you were training and you were doing suicides and puking in a trash can, and you were working hard, running ropes, all the things, all the dues you paid, you did it all with the long-term goal of, I'm going to get to WrestleMania one day.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to get. Nobody, as time goes on, maybe some people might, but right now, as it still stands, the majority of talent did not do all those dues, being paid, and sacrifices, dreaming about main eventing Double or Nothing. And that's just a reality. And so
reality check.
But that's
Not
what
wrong,
it is.
yeah.
That's what it is. Again, maybe in 10 years from now, there's some 18-year-old who has been watching AEW since they were 8, and they're like, Double or Nothing or All In, whatever. This changed my life as a fan, and maybe that is their goal. And that's whatever. That's power to you. But especially now when WWE is back on the upswing, and you're watching what's going to be the biggest business WrestleMania ever, you're paying your dues, you're driving yourself, you're motivating yourself in the gym for those extra reps and those extra weights to get to WrestleMania.
Yeah, and
so
AEW's just not there yet.
So when push comes to shove, and you have the choice between the two, if both companies have offers for you, that's always a relevant factor.
Yep.
And to transition to the next match, look, CM Punk is in WWE again, and what is he trying to do even though he's hurt? He's trying to get on the WrestleMania card, and he still wants to get that WrestleMania main event. No matter how old you are, how many years you've been in the business, WrestleMania, just being on the card is enough for some guys, but getting to the highest level, you're right. I could not have said it better myself. CM Punk will not be wrestling on night 2 of WrestleMania, but he will be at ringside for this next match. Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, World Heavyweight title. Seth kind of seems like the third wheel here. Punk will be guest commentator. I don't believe he'll get involved unless he magically has that triceps repaired and healed, but I doubt it. LaBar, you can actually give us some good insight on what he says because you'll be watching it from the comfort of your own home. But I'm looking forward to this match purely because, Josh, you made it the best point. Drew McIntyre should have walked out of WrestleMania 37 as world champion. He got screwed by the pandemic and having to wrestle with no fans, but damn it, he really carried the flag. And I think this is his big moment to rebound from that. I think this is his moment to win the title. And Seth should go heel and like heel up, maybe heel as well, and not a babyface. But Josh, I think this is Drew's moment, and I think you agree.
I agree. I think Drew wins. I think it all goes back to night 1 where Seth gets, quote, hurt, and Drew just, a shark seeing blood. He's going to find it. He's going to take down Rollins. I'd be happy if this match was under 10 minutes where Drew just dominates Seth Rollins and he can continue to be the dastardly heel that he has been on, social media talking about Punk. And I mean, Drew McIntyre has done the best work probably in his career as this heel, as this smart heel that just doesn't really care what people think about him, doesn't care what he says. But yeah, this is an easy one for me. I think Drew wins. Wouldn't hate this being the beginning of WrestleMania night number 2. I think that's a great way to start it, unless Damian cashes in, which I don't think he does. So I'm going to go with Drew winning, and this is a great way to start off night 2 of WrestleMania.
LaBar, before I pass it to you, and I'm glad you said it, Josh, I think this is the absolute best choice to open up night 2 because you can set the seeds of, well, Rollins is hurt. He's not going to be able to help Cody. And all night you're thinking about that. And like I mentioned, if you want to have Jay and Jimmy start night 1, get the crowd going for the whole weekend, why wouldn't you want to hear the CM Punk entrance at WrestleMania for the first time in how long to start off the night as he comes out to be guest commentator? I think it's a great way to kick off the night. LaBar, is this Drew's time to finally get the big win in front of everybody and then really just pay off all of the incredible mic work that he's been doing over the last couple of months?
I absolutely agree. This should kick off night 2. Juice, what you just said, kick off with that CM Punk Cult of Personality coming out on the Mania stage. Also because keep this match as far away from the main event of night 2 as possible, so that way it does not get overshadowed. Let time go by. Let it breathe. Rollins is definitely losing this title. They just announced that Clash of the Castle, the next one, is going to be this summer in June in Scotland, so the country that Drew is from. So number one, that's significant because that seems to confirm that Drew is staying with WWE. I know there was some contract speculation and questions. This has to sure up that he's on the damn poster. So there's one of two things. I mean, yeah, you could think of him going to that PLE as the champion. That's very, very appropriate, right? I could also say that he could have a match with CM Punk at that show, and it would not need to be for a title, and it would be just as important because of the tension that has been built in their storyline. And the way that would happen would be Drew wins. Seth has to get beat. That's the first thing. Seth has to get beat. So Drew beats Seth. But then Punk's there at ringside. So there could be any measure of distraction, whether it's verbally or whether that's a slight physical. And what if it then led to Priest cashing in? So now you have Priest as your new champion to do whatever you want to have do with that title and the next challenger. But now Drew just had his moment for about a fleeting 1 minute in front of the fans in Mania, and then it got taken away all because that damn CM Punk was a distraction. That would just add more fuel to this fire with CM Punk. And, June's coming up, obviously, a couple months from now. I cite the CM Punk interview he did at Larry Helwani. If you get to the point where they talk about his injury and he says it's night and day compared to the other one, he's rehabbing much better, much faster. He credits WWE for the care they're giving him versus the care that AEW did not give to him. He's crediting the fact that he has a goal. AEW wasn't speaking to him. He didn't even know if he was still employed with AEW. He knows that he has a goal. He knows he has business with Drew and others to get back to. He even referenced a summertime PLE was his exact words. So, you could have Drew versus Punk not for a title, and it could still be the main event. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it. Bottom line, Seth's losing. Drew's going to win it. I don't know if Drew walks out of Mania still as champion. I still think there's a lot of different scenarios that go down, but absolutely Seth loses.
You LaBar, I think this is the third time you've joined the Juice Box for a PLE prediction. Josh has been a part of almost all of them, to my knowledge, AEW and WWE. And for, I would say, the last 5 or 6, look, honestly, since Priest has won the Money in the Bank, Josh and I have incorrectly predicted that Priest would cash in here or there and at Payback, at Rumble, what have you. Somehow, some way, you have now convinced me that this is actually going to happen, and that's a great way to set up everything going forward. If Punk is ready to roll by June, not even by SummerSlam, literally just by June, you can have a feud with Drew McIntyre that's already been built because of this injury that, sidelines a guy. It kind of, quote, ruined WrestleMania, but you see how they pivoted. They picked up where they, left off, and I think it was a great call by you. If Drew wins this thing, you get the moment, and I'm sure people will be happy. But if Punk somehow costs him, or Priest ends up winning because of that, and McIntyre is just seething, and Punk can just be laughing his ass off on commentary, it's just a great way to mesh all of it together. Seth can go away for a while, and then of course he could get reintegrated as well. I think that's a great call. I think Drew definitely could get redemption. Look, he'll get redemption in this WrestleMania from a previous one. Maybe he'll win the world title in Glasgow this time at Clash of the Castle instead of just having to sing with Tyson Fury awkwardly after losing his big match with Roman Reigns. So I think that's a great idea, Justin. There's so many moving pieces, yet those pieces are all perfectly placed. Commentary, there's a cash-in possibility, and it just lines up well. Josh, do you think that's too out of the realm, or is Justin finally going to be someone on this show that correctly predicts a Priest cash-in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea. It's hard because all the cash-ins in my mind need to be big, and this would be huge for Damian, but Damian wins. My thought is, then what does Damian do after that? Who does he go face after that? Could it be Jay? Maybe. Could it be another, couple of faces on Raw? It's not going to be Cody. So that's my only, I guess, sticking point is what happens after Damian successfully cashes in. And Damian is not I mean, he's not a part of any storyline really aside from the tag titles, which, is a thrown together 6-man ladder match. He's always that outlier. I mean, maybe. I'm not against the idea of Priest cashing in. It's just I just don't know. Yeah.
If Priest wins and Judgment Day loses the tag titles, it's conceivable, even if Finn isn't winning necessarily a number one contenders match, outside of Drew getting that quote rematch for the title, I could see Finn versus Priest in a built match right there if Judgment Day is really going to crumble. I mean,
yeah, but yeah, but I think that.
I mean, other than that, I agree. I don't know where he you win this match. I would say Drew is just going to want the match back.
I agree. I think Drew. Yeah, man, that's tough. I think it's more of me I think Drew just walks out as champion because the story has been. The WrestleMania build has been about Seth being hurt and Drew going to capitalize on that. And you can easily add in Damian Priest to take away Drew's spot again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not against
it's my thing. I just don't know. My thing with Drew, the problem I'm having here, and is if Drew leaves Mania as champion, the only person any of us care about seeing him fight is CM Punk. Now again, based upon
you want to wait on that.
Based upon Punk's comments to Helwani, how he said he thinks he can come back maybe even half the time he did for the last injury, which the last time he had this injury was in AEW, and it took him, I think, 6 or 8 months. So yeah, I mean, Punk is now looks like he's projecting that he's coming back in the summer. That's vague, but Drew's not going to have no opponent until June. It's
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, if Drew wins Mania and leaves as champion, okay, fine. Seth needs to go away. That's fine. But it's like all we care about is Drew versus Punk. Anything you try to give me between now and then is just going to be yawn. I'm waiting for Punk to come back.
And I agree with that. But you say that who else could he face? But WWE has done such a great job at making sure that these storylines intertwine and continue even if they're not on TV together. And Drew had a beef with Sami Zayn. Drew had beef with Jey Uso. Those are two faces right there that Drew could fight against.
True. No, you're right. You're right. You're right. That would you could probably buy yourself a month or two with those. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
True. But doesn't that wouldn't that have to go hand in hand with how it ends on night one for both those guys?
If
Sami loses to Gunther, I'm actually going to challenge Drew though. Yep. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. If Zayn loses to Gunther, that's a problem. And if Jay loses to Jimmy, how the hell do you get them to the number one contender spot for a world title?
But it's very easy because if you think about it, you forget things after WrestleMania. I mean, hell, AJ Styles was facing Roman Reigns after WrestleMania 32 when he lost to Jericho. Because he won a number one contenders match.
Well,
so there are ways
you got
to get them back there.
Yeah, you have to set up a number one contender. Go ahead, Justin.
I'll go back to this. If Drew wins, and if we got a table Punk still into the summertime, so we got to fill a month or two, going back to somebody we talked about in night one, Sheamus has got history with Drew.
Yeah. And I'll tie that into what I was just going to say. I think we all can agree, though. Let's just say Drew wins the title and nothing else happens. He can rub it in Punk's face that next night with arguably probably the biggest Raw of the year, getting to cut. He's been doing these great promos all leading up to WrestleMania. Can you imagine his first promo as heel world champion after doing what he said he was going to do and rubbing it in everybody's face, and then you get maybe a Sheamus interrupting him coming back?
Yeah. And Drew could easily say hey, CM Punk, I took your moment. That's
right.
So moving forward, hey, you thought this was supposed to be you. I saved everybody from you. So again, I'm not against the Damian Priest thing, but I think there's more meat to the bone of Drew and the opponents that could potentially face him in the next 2 or 3 months. Because if Damian's champion, I just don't know how you make that transition of him being kind of stagnant, being a member of Judgment Day and being a tag team champion, to immediately being world champion and saying, okay, well, Damian, now you're going to face this guy. Okay, there might be some backstory to it, but not as much meat on that bone as it would be if Drew McIntyre was world champion.
I'll throw one final thing out there, and this could be blanketed across several storylines, but I'll say it right to this point because we only have one other match to talk about, and it's not going to be applicable to that last match. So maybe if Priest is champion, and it's all right, well, what does he do next? If Drew is now on the hunt for Punk and you're looking now for a challenger for Damian, and again, what I'm about to say could be applied to this. It could be applied to Karrion Kross needs a challenger if he comes out of Mania looking strong. It depends. I don't know what show they do this on or whatever. If you watch the Bray Wyatt documentary on Peacock, they obviously at the very, 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 very end teased to his brother continuing on a character. I don't know if it's the Uncle Howdy or some new character, but they teased to a character continuing on the Bray Wyatt legacy. Obviously, that character is going to be cheered. There's no way, and why would you want to make that character a heel right now? That character is going to be cheered because of the legacy of what it represents. Mm-hmm. Again, you could find a semi-spooky heel in Karrion Kross. You could also find, if you wanted to elevate it, to a Damian Priest. But I'll just throw that out there in all of our booking that as we look at our rosters and we're talking about Sheamus returns and all these things, that's another character that we need to throw in the roster mix to keep in mind for this spring season.
Yeah. I tend to agree there. And the last point I'll make is it out of the realm of possibility that, Priest doesn't cash in at WrestleMania at all, not on Raw either, that he wants to do an RVD and call his shot at Backlash or, something ahead of time?
If he's staying a heel, it makes no sense to do as a heel. RVD was fine because he was a babyface and he called his shot and said, I'm going to do it in my backyard. I'm going to do it in an ECW show.
Yeah.
Unless Priest, but look, I'll say this, Juice. I'm talking about how I think Judgment Day is going to implode. Unless Priest separates from them and they somehow babyface him up, then yes. But as it stands now, that would not make sense.
I think he could be a face. I think JD McDonough, Finn, not Rhea now. Of course, she's very over. But I mean, they're kind of separate.
If they were doing a PLE in Puerto Rico. Absolutely.
Well,
if he called the shot and said, if he said, I'm going to challenge and cash in Puerto Rico, in my home country, abso-freaking-lutely. But I don't think they are. They're going to France next. So
Yeah.
He's not facing Rene Dupree for the championship.
He's not facing Rene Dupree.
Damn, too bad. Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting, regardless of what happens. Maybe one of us will be somewhat right, but who really knows on this show? Before we get into the big match, I just want to get your thoughts on one little thing here that's applicable to all of this. I'll start with you, Josh. How have you enjoyed, or I mean, maybe you've hated it, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the integration of The Rock back on WWE TV almost every week? The cursing, the social media posts, the promos, the beatdowns. It seems like he's really, really back and invested in this, and I personally think it's great, and we've been wanting it forever, and I'm happy it's happening now. But what about you? Do you like this? You guys are, a little bit older than me, but we all grew up with the Attitude Era, and he was one of the biggest stars, and now that he's back in the main event picture, are you a fan of it?
You know what? I don't like it. I love it because I think it brings us back to what we thought and what, at least Justin and I fell in love with, which was the Attitude Era and the cursing. Yeah. It's.
There's no Rock without Austin.
There's no Austin without Rock.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't even give me Vince. I can't talk about him on here, but there's.
Well, who said that? Come on. He's just not a part of the show. That's all. We mentioned Rock earlier.
That's a famous CSR original debate of there's no Rock without Austin. And that was Isenberg's quit back. Yeah.
There's no.
I mean, is he wrong?
That's going to be a whole hour and a half of this juice box. Okay, so
we'll do a separate episode.
That's like a juice box at Sam's Club conversation. It's a bulk conversation.
I love it. I love Hollywood Rock. I think there is always a piece of The Rock who is beloved by so many, but there's a piece of him that can tap into him being loved so much that there's always going to be a small, part of him that he wants to be the bad guy, and he's leaning into it and he's utilizing his power without fully. I mean, he said it obviously about being on the TKO board, being your boss. I mean, hell, Hollywood Rock would be wonderful right now in a match next year if Triple H was healthy, because that is where you blur lines of, hey, Triple H is the guy that's running the show, but he also has to, defer to his boss. But anyway, so yeah, I love it, Juice. I think everything that The Rock has done has been successful. The pivot to the main event, which we'll talk about here in just a second, has been, at first was a little convoluted. People weren't sure, like, what the heck's going on here? Why would Cody say this? And then he refers back to, detracting his statements about stepping aside. It's great because anytime that The Rock is involved in something, I think it just brings more eyes to the product, and it brings more eyes to what WWE needs. And that's, again, that crossover appeal. And he says it, pro wrestling is cool again. Like, there are people that don't watch wrestling that say The Rock's back, like that The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. And there's a small demographic that don't even remember anything about him being in WWE because of everything he's done outside of it. So yeah, I love it. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what happens in the next year as well.
LaBar, thoughts?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love The Rock being back. I think I do think there's a little part of him who still is adjusting to his role.
Yeah.
I think he's not. I think there's a part of him that never thought that he'd ever be booed again. So, we saw it in the Memphis a few weeks ago. I thought it was a little bit weird that he was trying to like position himself as a babyface. He's back home in Memphis. It's like, who are you, Jerry Lawler? Like Memphis.
He has 10 homes. Memphis. He's a West Side boy or East Side
right.
boy.
I mean, he's an Allentown, PA guy too. Like it's so. But no, but big picture. I mean, what he's doing for the genre, for the company is just. He does these. I talk about this on Busted Open. It's like he does these director's cuts. He does these on social that he releases on Friday lately, where it's 20 minutes and it's obviously uncut language, and then he does a boiled down 10-minute version on SmackDown, language slightly toned down, and it's kind of brilliant because and I know for firsthand because I've had people in my life, people who do not watch WWE. But maybe they follow The Rock because they're fans of his movies, or they listen to the Pat McAfee show, and Pat was hammering hard last week. Did you see what Rock did to Cody Rhodes in the parking lot? And I've had these people in the world come to me and because they know that I, have some involvement in pro wrestling, and they're like, and they're talking about it. They've never talked to me about a single thing ever before WWE. So that to me is my very basic man on the street test of like, this is working. This is gaining new attention, and so yeah, you love it, and one day we're gonna get a great documentary about this entire situation, this entire build. We're gonna get a great behind the scenes documentary, and I look forward to hearing The Rock speak honestly about him and Cody are so similar. Growing up in the shadows of their families and legacies to live up to, and et cetera, et cetera. I look forward to hearing the true raw, non-kayfabe comments of how fun this was to do, and then looking at the time that this is very important for the business, very important for the company. It's a great. We weren't doing this. Three of us weren't doing this 25 years ago in the Attitude Era and on the precipice of Vince buying WCW and ECW. None of this is being done. So I say this now as we're doing these now, and this is on the record and this is on the internet, so it'll live forever. Let's enjoy this era that we're in right now because this will be an era that's documented and talked about many years in the future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I kind of refer to it as a renaissance of sorts because it's what's old is new again, and it's whether even if it was a pivot, The Rock has now embraced it. He was a heel before. It's just not what I think they were gonna go for, and now not only do they pivot, but he's leaning into it so damn much. I think it's genius that it's final boss, as in I'm the last guy you got to beat, but I'm also the actual boss now because I have, I'm board of directors, and I love that. And we mentioned Triple H earlier. We mentioned a lot of guys earlier. We're going to talk about that right now. But you mentioned Cody. We're going to get to that. I think that Cody and Rock, like you said, are so similar, and that's why this program with the four, but mainly The Rock and Cody, has been so successful. It's Cody and The Rock come from a similar place. They both love this. They both understand that like this type of interaction is exactly, the heat of it all is what you mentioned, LaBar. People that don't normally talk about wrestling are like, did you see what happened? Oh my God, The Rock's back. Specifically, I'm going to go to WrestleMania this year. I'm going to be going with two of my buddies that one had never been to a wrestling show before, and he'd growing up with him. He knew I loved wrestling. He would backyard wrestle with us, but he never like watched wrestling. But he knew of Steve Austin, Rock, and certain guys. He went to SmackDown. He loved it, and we're going to go to WrestleMania. The other guy, fan during the Attitude Era, loved all those guys as I mentioned. He was actually at King of the Ring 98, as he was 5, but he was at King of the Ring 98. And I tell him, like, look, that was one of the most overplayed and like celebrated moments in the history of the business that you were in attendance for. So like the importance of that, and to see like now they get to be at this huge show, and it's not just any WrestleMania. The Rock's going to be there, and he's a huge focal point. I just think it's great. It's bringing the nostalgia back.
Let me ask you guys this real quick, because
Yeah,
I've been
absolutely.
before we get to this final match, I want to ask you this, because
Yeah.
I've been vocal about this on Busted Open, but I haven't got to talk to either of you about this via text or anything.
Yeah.
I still stand by it. They should have just, on night one, if they want to do this whole thing of you got to work to get to night two, I still stand by it should have just been The Rock versus Cody straight up, because that's what we really care about. Preserve, let Roman be the final obstacle you get to a night two, and Seth, he's already got to deal with Drew, and he's probably not 100%. I still think everybody cares about seeing Cody versus Rock. That's what we really care about. I don't think it should be a tag match. I still stand by that, and unless they blow my pants away Saturday, I'm going to still stand by that. Do you guys agree it should be straight up Rock versus Cody?
I'll take this first before I pass it to Josh. I think that now, we've been saying it both these episodes, that Seth seems like second fiddle. I even mentioned maybe Roman feels like second fiddle to Rock and Cody, and how intense it's been. And regardless of what we see in this show, I want to see The Rock versus Cody, whether, if we get to the predictions, if let's say Cody wins the title, if The Rock is the guy that gets the pin on night one, Rock can lay claim, plus he's the boss, that he earns a title shot against Cody. And I think, that could be a match. I don't know where that takes place, if it's Saudi or SummerSlam or what have you. But now that this tag match is in play, I think they love playing the Mania 1 was a tag, and this is now we're going to do this. And I also think they're obviously using it as a vehicle to get to the match that I think they were initially going to go for, which was Rock versus Roman, which I like how they've come up with this. I know this was not the original plan, but I like where they're at now. And I'm sure, maybe not blow your pants away, but I think the designated things will happen to set things in motion for hopefully maybe the next year. I don't know how long The Rock wants to do all this at this level, which is almost every week. I think he could also carry a storyline without being on TV every week. Like you said, with the promos, the director's cuts, he could do anything like that. He used to do by satellite before. I think there's a lot of avenues they could do, and it's great. I trust now, after how long we wanted The Rock to come in. Now he's here, and he's doing a lot more than I would have actually thought he would have given him credit for. So I trust that if they want to push this going forward, wherever it is, Rock, Cody, Rock, Roman, they'll make the right call. But yeah, I'm in. I want Rock versus Cody at some point. Josh, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rock Cody is going to happen at some point. I think that match should have been night one if none of us thought that the Bloodline is going to win night one now. Because if Cody beats The Rock on night one, again, the next 6, 7, 8 months potentially where you could build that match to SummerSlam, Saudi, whatever, is irrelevant. So the long-term booking for me would be, okay, Cody beat Roman, but he still hasn't really faced the actual tribal chief, the final boss, the guy that has led this family for 25 years. So again, the one-on-one match should have, I agree with you, LaBar. I think that is more intriguing, but there's no way in my mind that if Cody wins that match, there's not more for Rock to do after the fact. And I think it all leads up to next year as well, where it's going to be Roman and Rock. They both, in my mind, lost to Cody, and it's more of, okay, well, our family has lost to another royal family. It's about us now and not Cody. And I think that's ultimately what they wanted to do this year. But again, like, as everything changes, you have to have a constant. Cody's champion, maybe this point next year. That's the constant. But you also have, again, Roman and Rock inevitably facing each other next year. But yeah, I mean, the Seth thing is, I get it, because they want Seth to feel important. They want that World Heavyweight Championship to feel important. And Seth is obviously the far, far and away number 4 in this tag team match. So it's hard for me to say, yeah, like, he should be in there, because aside from him being a member of the Shield, I mean, he lost 3 times to Cody. In my opinion, his feud with Cody was more personal, more intense than any feud that Seth has had in the past 5 years. So that's why I had a little bit of a disconnect at first, but now they're trying to take down the bloodline. So I get that. But if I had to, I would probably still stick with what they're doing now, just because it gives us 6, potentially 1 year worth more of storylines.
Yeah, so I mean, the table has been set, the head of the table, if you will. We are finally here. This match could be everything, and I'm sure it will deliver in one way or another. Undisputed WWE Universal title. Stipulation will be determined by the result of the main event on night 1. We are all, I believe, in agreement that the Bloodline will be victorious on night 1, leading to Bloodline rules for this match. Roman, Cody, Volume 2, they did it last year, and everybody was pretty much thinking, well, this is going to be it. Can't wait to finish the story. Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same, and we're doing it again. Josh, I'll start with you. Assuming it's Bloodline rules, right? The only thing I said was it's not going to be, false count anywhere, but everything else pretty much is in play. Give me your winner, and then give me your best booking. Who's going to come out? If something factors from night 1 into night 2, bring that up as well. Let's see what you got.
Bloodline rules. Cody overcomes the odds. He finally finishes his story. Cody walks out as champion. I do expect the odds to be evened for Bloodline rules, even if Jay is unavailable, even if Seth is unavailable. I think with Bloodline rules, I don't see Jimmy or Solo interfering. I could see Rock coming out trying to cause some sort of problem. If anybody comes out, whether it's Stone Cold, John Cena, whoever, to kind of even the odds for Cody, I don't want them to be the ultimate definitive reason that Cody wins, which means I want them to come out to eliminate the outsiders, but still Cody, kicking out at 2 3/4 of a spear or a Superman punch, and then ultimately beating Roman. So even the odds, but make sure that Cody stands tall on his own at the end of the night. Give me Cody winning and walking out of Philadelphia as the undisputed Universal Champion.
Yeah, I think Bloodline rules is the way to go. I feel that, if it's going to be Bloodline rules, then I would say Rock is going to already be out there with Roman. I don't see how this match would happen without, having that by his side, especially if they're victorious on night 1. I would feel like, oh, well, The Rock's going to want to be, on Roman's hip there to celebrate with him as he retains again against Cody Rhodes. And I did allude to it earlier, and LaBar, you can bounce off this as I lay it all out here. I think the factor that I'm more interested in is the night 1 result and how it happens. We're assuming Bloodline wins, but I think it could go a number of ways. But, if The Rock does a lot of work and Roman gets the pin, is The Rock pissed? And does that affect night 2? Or the other way, does Roman hit 3 spears on Cody and The Rock decides to pin Cody because he wants to beat Cody down. He's been beating him all this time, which I alluded to could set up, Cody and Rock down the line if Cody were to win this match and The Rock could lay claim to that first match because he pinned him on night 1. Do you think the night 1 really, outside of the main result for Bloodline rules, is going to affect night 2? Or is it just going to be a lot of chaos that we're likely going to predict?
I think night one establishes that it's going to be Bloodline rules. It establishes that Cody has a hell of a Sunday night ahead of him. And I think it establishes that Seth Rollins is not 100%, and that's going to be problematic for his match with Drew. I'm not anticipating any quarrels between Rock and Roman. I think we end night one with the Bloodline looking as strong as ever, and it's just like, oh my God, like this is like, Cody has just got the world against him. Anything they want to plant seeds of problems with Roman Rock, I think that comes night two. And I agree with what Josh said. I think that any surprise outside interference on the good guy side, Cena, Austin, Triple H, whoever, it's simply just to neutralize the numbers. Cody still needs to be the star of the show in the ring. My prediction is Cody wins. Based upon all this. I will say that for all you gamblers, I will say that on the one big asterisk of this. We think we know that the original plan on paper was Rock versus Roman, right? And, is a little bit of a WrestleMania 30 situation of the crowd spoke so loud that they called the audible. And that's relevant because if the original plan was Rock versus Roman, well, what do we think was going to happen then? Because Nick Khan said at an event earlier tonight as we're recording, that The Rock after Mania, he's got this, I forget the movie name, so I apologize, but he's got some movie he's going to go film, and then after that he's going to go film the live action Moana. I remember that because my kids are Moana fans. So I say that all to on the point of, I don't know if there's a plan and availability for The Rock to be around as regular as he's been anyways over the next, as we go from spring into summer. So if it was going to be Rock versus Roman in the first place, that makes me think Roman was going to beat The Rock, and it was going to be like, oh my God, Roman truly is the tribal chief. He just beat The Rock. So that's important because if they were initially planning and creative in January for Roman to get through Mania still as champion, is that still something that's being advocated for? Is that still part of the grand plan? Is that oh, he's going to do that, and if he holds the title for 6 more months, he beats Hogan. He beats Hogan's record. So I'm betting. I'm going to bet my WrestleRumble.com money on Cody, but I just want to make sure that it's put out there that I'm not.
Oh, come on. We can't do this again. Justin, if Cody loses, I feel like a lot of you guys, Ghoulish hated it whenever I'm just like, Cody's the guy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I have such a soft spot for Cody. No, like, just as a booking person of loving this business, I feel like Cody is the right guy. He's the most over guy, sells the most merch. He should win. And they didn't do it last year, and that's fine. Do it again this year. He won the Rumble again. If you have your biggest babyface, most over guy in the company by far, and he's really not getting any boos. John Cena had boos in his face years. Cody wins the Rumble 2 years in a row and loses WrestleMania main events 2 years in a row. What are we doing? What is next for Cody?
If that happens, I'm gonna make this statement, and then I'd love to have Josh respond to this because again, I haven't got to talk to Josh about any of this.
Oh yeah.
If that happens, Juice. If Cody comes up short and loses, and Roman retains, last year, knowing what we know now, there's a little bit of a pass of, we thought Vince was out of it, but as we've come to learn, he still may have been involved via Zoom, via text, via surrogate.
Oh my God.
Whatever. But I think we all can agree this at this point now. I mean, Vince truly is. Punk even joked. Punk's like, I wouldn't have this gray hair right now on screen if Vince was still involved. I think we can all agree Vince is truly out of any decision making. And Nick Khan even said again in an interview recently, like, Vince is not. They are distancing themselves like Vince, like he is the plague, and quite frankly, as they should. But if this current administration, which is led creatively by Triple H day to day, if they do not go with Cody, then I have to think, Juice, you said it earlier, this is the first Mania under the TKO umbrella. I have to think that the TKO umbrella is going, well, Paul, we're setting record-setting business and gates and all the metrics. But this guy, Roman Reigns, our champion. And you want to take the title off of him. What I'm saying is if Roman keeps the title, I'm going to say this is an example of Paul Levesque is a booker day to day, but on high level decisions, he has to get the approval or at least,
bow to the masters.
Right. He at least has to pass a note around class. And when he passed the note around the board, and they go, holy crap, Roman's losing. No, we can't. We're not ready for that. I hate to think that would happen, but that would be something I could see relevant of. And this is not involving The Rock. This is not a Rock power play. This is because I think The Rock is going to do what I think. If anything, The Rock would be on Triple H's side. The Rock would be the wrestling guy saying, look, Paul's got this laid out. This is where the story makes sense. Let Cody win. But if the TKO board truly goes, this is our first Mania with this as our ownership, we're not ready to have this guy lose his title.
But you say about ratings, you say about attendance, things like that. Who is the guy that's at every live event? Who's the top merch seller? Cody's the top merch seller. Cody's at these live events that had 1,500, 2,000 people on a weekend basis for years. And now they're putting almost 10,000, 8,000 on those live events.
Correct.
Roman's only on TV for what? Aside from the road to WrestleMania, 1 or 2 SmackDowns a month, if that. So,
Josh, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry, I'll let you finish, but real quick. But you're correct on that. The only thing I'm going to say is that that's going to be up to Triple H to make that pitch. I don't know. I don't know the makeup of the board of if they're going to know that minutia of that context. They're just going to see. Business is great. My stock is going up. I'm richer than I was last quarter.
Yeah.
So don't take the title off this guy.
No, I agree with that. I think that's an incredibly valid point where this time last year I would have said to you, I'm 90% sure Cody's going to win. This year I'm like 60% because of that fact. But whenever I think about the entire business model of what WWE is trying to do is they're trying to make every PLE, every event important to me. And this could be the wrestling fan in me, not necessarily somebody who owns stock or who's on the board and pocketing millions of dollars because Roman's our champion. Roman's your champion, but again, he's being portrayed 30% of the time on your television comparative to Cody, who is doing everything right now. And even more so, we go back to we talked about Gunther and Rhea. If Roman wins here, who else can they build up like they've built up Cody in 2 years that could even be a possibility? And my biggest thing is this. You said the Hulk Hogan thing and passing Hogan. Nobody remembers the third or second longest reigning champion of all time. They remember the first, and there's no chance in hell he's passing Bruno. So is it really that big of a difference if they say, well, Roman held the title for 1,400 days and he was fourth? Comparative to, he was third.
Yes, but they'll mention that it was in the modern era. That's what they'll go by. WWE will make sure that their records are what they want, and they've been doing it with like the Honky Tonk Man and Demolition's record. They're all guys now that they trust for the future, and they will say that Bruno had those 7 years, but for the modern era, like they'll say that because Punk had that same distinction when he had 434 days. But
well, and on top, real quick, on top of the modern era things, we've the three of us have all seen. They've whether you agree with it or not, we're not going to debate that. They've diminished Hogan's.
Yeah.
So if they can have somebody surpass Hogan in the quote unquote modern era, as Juice has said, that there's something there too. So.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And I agree. Again, that's why I'm not completely sure that Cody wins, but I think if you're looking at it from a long-term perspective, it goes back for me. There's nobody else. Cody is the only guy that they've done enough with in 2 years since he's returned, is the only viable candidate to potentially, dethrone Roman. I mean, the only person that had a very, very small, probably not, but a 5%, 10% chance of potentially beating Roman was Jay at SummerSlam because of the family lineage. Looking back at it now, there should have been a 0% chance. Like, there's no way he was going to lose at SummerSlam. So for me, it really goes back to, if Roman loses, Roman goes away for a while. You see what you have with Cody for 3, 4, 5 months. See how the business is in worst case scenario, which again, I think you have such a deep pool of talent on that roster. You can always go back to Roman again. You can never go back to Cody being a number one contender main eventing WrestleMania. So if Cody doesn't leave there, that's it. Like, there's no more chances for Cody to be the guy. This is the last chance for WWE to make somebody else on the level of Roman Reigns. If not, you're going to have the same thing for another 3 years, which again, business might be great with 3 more years of Roman. I just don't know if I don't know if they're as confident, because you have guys like Triple H and The Rock who understand the business, and they realize that there always has to be a guy that's right there ready to go. And when do you pull the trigger? And I think you have to pull the trigger this year.
Quickly, I would say that Gunther is someone that I would believe against Roman, but we've discussed at length that getting him out of the IC title thing is where that disconnect is, to where if he was on his own just winning a lot of matches or something, then I could see it. But he's already been a champion, and to get to that other level, I don't know how they would navigate that. And you mentioned, Roman would go away for a few months. I definitely think there's a scenario, which, we've laid out plenty, and I'm sure there's plenty that we haven't discussed, but Rock could be here in this match. He could take out Cody, of course, but I absolutely think if Roman pissed him off on night one, even though LaBar, you mentioned you don't think the seeds would be planted then, but The Rock could hit, Cody with a rock bottom and then hit Roman with a rock bottom. Roman can get sympathy, lose the title. Rock is not going to go to a face. He's gonna stick as the final boss. I think he's leaning into this. I don't think he's a double agent for Cody. I think he lays both of them out, and then you get that potential. It's just Cody versus Roman, pretty straight up, regardless of the other outside interference. Maybe you get that Austin to negate Rock after he's done all that damage. But I think the goal that WWE would like, outside of LaBar's really making me think about the board and what they believe, which is terrifying to me. But I don't know if I want to see that play out exactly. But I think the goal ideally would be Cody wins the title, Roman goes away, but when he comes back, he's as a baby face because of dastardly heel Rock, who cost him everything after Roman had all this whole time, and Rock comes in and you think he's supposed to be there for you, and really he takes it all away. I just think you get Cody on another level. Roman can go away but come back as something that we haven't seen in 4 years, and Rock can maintain that aura, as the kids say. Do you guys feel like that's plausible? Do you think The Rock is going to stick around maybe just another year and that's it?
I think one more year for him and that's it. Yeah, WrestleMania 41 will probably be his swan song.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So I don't know. I think he could work a SummerSlam. I could see them doing a Saudi show. I'm not sure, but I think you guys all laid it out. And if Cody's champion, we don't really know what's really going to come down the pike, but CM Punk will be back in the fold at some point. I'd love to see a Punk and Cody match, regardless if it's a face or heel or just two good guys going at it, what have you. But the whole big thing I've been taking away from this is wrestling's back, guys. This is popular. It's fun to be a WWE fan, be a wrestling fan. You have two companies going back and forth with solid TVs, crazy angles. The Rock is back. Mainstream media, I mean, is picking up all of the, all these things. Jimmy Fallon, I believe currently, if not, as we're recording this, has Rock and Roman on there. So, I mean, everything has kind of fallen into place, whether it was planned or not for this event. I'm going to go with Cody winning this thing. I believe you guys said that as well. Josh, before we sign off here, I'm going to see you in Philly. I cannot wait to see you, man. What are you looking forward to most about this whole weekend?
Seeing you at the bar.
Okay. That's it. Signed, sealed, and delivered. No. Okay. LaBar, I got to be honest, and I'll be thrilled to see Isenberg and my buddies that I'm going with and everybody else there, but it's not going to be the same without you being there. I'm thrilled that you get to really kind of live out a dream. You get to watch it at home on your own accord and get to talk about it for a few hours and to the masses. But it's gonna be bittersweet because it's the first Mania I have been in attendance for in 5 years. So it'll be nice being there, but won't be the same without you, man. You looking forward to this weekend, all things considered?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm gonna have some FOMO. I mean, I'll miss out on being with you guys, but I'm looking forward to watching at home, hearing the commentary, sitting in the comfort of my home, my own snacks, my own drinks, and then of course, getting in the studio doing Busted Open both days. So, I'm looking forward to it. But this really has the makings to be the best. It has the makings to be. I went into Mania 17. When you had all the storylines, WCW was just bald. It looked like it was the biggest transition ever in the business. And we're kind of in that same period now, but even greater. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what this weekend means. I will be sad I'm not there. I will miss out. I'm sure you guys will send me pictures and make me jealous of not being there. We'll do it again in the future. But I'm looking forward to commentating what goes on this weekend.
Absolutely, man. I'll definitely have a shot for you on both nights. Absolutely. And I mean, WrestleMania 17, as tough as it is for me to admit, with WCW folding, it was the perfect storm. The storylines were at its peak. The Attitude Era was just at a fever pitch, and everything could not have come together more perfectly. And look at this, WrestleMania 40, The Rock and potentially Steve Austin could be involved again. Wow, the more things change, the more things stay the same. I'm so happy that I could talk to both you, Josh, and you, Justin. Chairshot Reality guys come together once again for a fun episode of the Juice Box. 2 nights, 2 episodes, special for WrestleMania week. Hopefully everybody has enjoyed what we've been discussing today and yesterday, of course, with the night 1 episode. But Justin, Josh, it's been great. Anytime you guys are willing to come on here, I am grateful for it. And you're also welcome anytime you like. So for Justin, for Josh, I'm Juice. Enjoy WrestleMania 40 this weekend in Philly. If you see any of us, say hi. And this has been the WrestleMania 40 Predictions Show right here on The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.